Hi, philosophers. I'm coming to you this week just so that you have a little bit more face-to-face contact with me, and hopefully I'll be able to do this every week or at least every other week. So if you find this helpful, please let me know and I will keep doing these. So for today, for the video, I'm going to be focusing on the Socratic method essay, belief versus opinion, which there's a handout on that, and then the discussion board feedback. And so I was really heartened to see everybody respond to those, dig deep, and give me a sense of who was out there. So I wanted to give you feedback on that. But first, I want to give you the trivia question. It is also down below in all of the announcements, so you can look for that. So every other week or so, I'm going to send out a trivia question, and the first person in each of my sections to email me back, I will send an actual physical mailed prize, just a small thing, but this includes my international students. So if you're international, don't worry, I will mail that to you as well. So the question is linked to a quote that's in your syllabus by Gloria Anzaldúa, which says, "She is willing to make herself vulnerable to foreign ways of seeing and thinking." The trivia question is, where is Gloria Anzaldúa from? So the first person to email me back that gets a prize emailed to them. Or mailed to them, actually, physically mailed, not even emailed. Hopefully the USPS will be able to get it to you in a decent amount of time. We'll see. All right, so the next piece is the Socratic method essay. So you have a rubric up there. You have a lot about the Socratic method in this week's lecture. There's a voiceover version of that available to you now for the lecture if PowerPoint lectures are helpful to you. And I also have a video that's about Trevor Noah from The Daily Show and kind of how he uses that methodology. But the key point for the Socratic method interview and then the essay that you write about it is to really pick a concept and then give it to a person that's close to you. It could be to a complete stranger, although these days that's a little bit harder. But to give them that concept, get a definition from them, and don't argue with them. Don't agree with them, but push them further, right? So for example, if you're asking, let's just say it's your mom, right? You say, "Mom, I've got this philosophy assignment that's due. I'm supposed to interview about God, about whether you believe in God or not." And she answers you back, right? Now, if you disagree with her, you might sort of jump into all the reasons why you disagree with her answer about why she does or does not believe in God. Or you might say, "Yeah, I totally agree. Those are all the same reasons." I don't want you to do either of those, at least not till the end. I want you to step back, not give your own belief just yet, and get her, right, or whoever this is, to dig a little bit deeper, right? So asking these follow-up questions. So let's say, for example, her mom says, "I believe in God." And you say, "Okay, well, why do you believe in God?" "Well, it's because of the Bible, right? I was raised in the Bible and the Bible says that." So your follow-up is something along the lines of, "Well, why do you believe in the Bible?" Right? And if she says, "Well, because I believe in God," you say, "Well, isn't that a bit circular, right? Are there other reasons you believe in one or the other, right?" So you're getting at, are there potential fallacies? And this is not to make the person feel bad. It's not to tear down their beliefs, but it's actually to get them to clarify, right, what their real reasons for believing something are, right? So that's just one example. And that's one that a lot of people will ask a parent or a sibling or something about their belief in God. So if you're somebody who's doing that, then I want you to keep going, right? "Well, why do you believe in the Bible?" Or, "No, I've always gone. It's because my family." Well, why do you believe, right, in that tradition, right? So just keeping going. And if there are examples, counter examples that you want them to address, right, you bring those up. And you bring those up in a sort of a gentle way. "Well, what about this, right? Does that change your belief in any way?" And trying to get them to think of counter examples and how they respond to that as well. So it's that back and forth conversation. And then at the end, if you want to say what you believe and it's different, or if you want to completely agree with the person, then that's fine. But the Socratic method is really about that back and forth conversation and clarification of your beliefs. So that's really what I'm looking for. And the best essays will show me that you've asked some of those questions. So the essays in paragraph form, you have a rubric that tells you what I want for each of the paragraphs. And if you have any questions, you can let me know. All right. There's also a fallacies handout. I believe it's either under week 1 or week 2. that you can look at to see, is the person I'm interviewing committing any of these fallacies, like that begging the question, right? Well, I believe in God because of the Bible. Why do you believe in the Bible? Because of God, right? So is it circular? Do they have a way to get out of that circular argument? All right, the next thing I would have you look at is there's a belief versus an opinion handout that actually comes from our department head, Dr. Job, and I find it really useful because one of the things that seems to plague all of us, not just Gen Z folks, not just millennials, I think everybody seems to be sort of prone to this right now, is the overuse of the term opinion, right? Or the word opinion versus belief. We almost seem in some ways allergic to the term belief right now. So we think when we say, well, that's just my opinion, that somehow means that will shut off any argument, that tells people we don't want to argue about it. You say, well, that's just my opinion, right? It's my opinion if I believe in God, or it's my opinion if I vote this way, or whatever. So I really want you to start thinking about claiming your beliefs, right? And distinguishing that from your opinions. So what I like to say is that opinions are for what kind of music you like, the kind of toppings you like on your pizza, or maybe how something makes you feel. So opinions are really about feelings and taste, right? It's my opinion, right, that broccoli tastes great, and my partner their opinion might be that it tastes horrible, right? So there's no reasons behind it. We either like it or we don't, right? So those are opinions. But when we get into, I believe in something, I believe God exists, or I believe God doesn't exist, or I believe we can't know, right? Or I believe this is what justice looks like. Those are not opinions, right? Those are your beliefs. So I really want to push you, and I'll push you when you're writing your argumentative essays to not use that word opinion, because that's not what we're dealing with in this class. We're dealing with your beliefs. Beliefs might change. Beliefs might be in conflict with one another, right? And that's okay. They can still be a belief. So a belief is something you have reasons for, okay? So keep that in mind as well, and see if anybody that you're interviewing uses, oh, but it's just my opinion, or maybe you're finding yourself using that as well. I want to move on to the discussion board feedback. So again, thank you for taking the time, and a lot of you just gave really vulnerable bits of your bio as well, which helps me, especially since we're not face-to-face. Just getting a sense of who's out there and who's behind the keyboard during this online class. So just moving forward, this is your first one, the wisdom and introductions one, and it was a pretty easy, straightforward one in some ways. In some ways there was a lot of digging going on as well. The next one won't be due until the end of metaphysics, but next week you can kind of start looking at some of the options there are out there. The first week we just had one option, but moving forward, I'll have at least 2 options for each section of the course. So you can do your original post and your reply in any of them that you like. You'll need at least 1 post and 1 reply, and you'll need to pull in a quote from Mitchell. So as you're reading Mitchell, go to the discussion board starting next week, kind of look at your options, see which one might be of interest to you, and then be looking for that quote as you're reading your chapters, okay? But the idea is, I'm hoping that we'll be getting some smaller discussions instead of like the big unwieldy first week discussion where there's just tons and tons of posts, right? 25 people. I'm hoping we'll have some smaller knit discussions where you can really talk back and forth with one another around a discussion topic that you're interested in. If there's something that you'd like to talk about with others, email me and I can start a new thread underneath that. Metaphysics, epistemology, ethics, sociopolitical philosophy as the semester goes on. Remember, the lowest grade will be dropped, but I would encourage you to try to do the first few so that as the semester progresses and gets more intense, you have that option of skipping a discussion if you need to later on. Okay, hopefully you'll be involved actually in multiple discussions in multiple sections all throughout this semester, but just to give yourself a little bit of leeway. I will also kind of mention that digging deeper, you'll start to see that this semester or this week in the semester. It's people will skip it early on. It's basically your extra credit for this class. It's extra material from the textbook, but also outside that you can write reflections on for me. So keep an eye out for those. If there's something that's interesting to you, write a reflection. It doesn't have to be any format other than typed out unless it says otherwise. Okay. All right, so on to some of the things that I found interesting, and I want to give you feedback. By far, everybody responded really well to the self-care question, and so I'm really glad I put it on there so you can get a lot of ideas. There's a lot of reoccurring themes, and so I want to kind of not leave that behind. I want us to keep coming back to this idea of self-care this semester, especially. If you were in online classes as it switched over in the spring, you know how hard that can be. But I think it can be very lonely. Doesn't matter if you're at home, you're in the dorms, even if you're at home with a big family, it can be very lonely right now to take classes online. So it's going to be really important that we stay on top of our mental health, our physical health, our spiritual health, all of those pieces. So a lot of folks are saying exercise, right? Treat that body right, right, so that it will not turn on you come midterms and finals. But getting whatever exercise your body is capable of doing, taking that walk around the lake if you're on campus, or walk around the neighborhood. That's what I do. Meditation and prayer, I think that's huge for those, if that works for you. Making that commitment to yourself, carving out that time. And so I think that's one of the hardest things, and I saw that over and over again, is people saying, I really want to be on top of getting up early, doing my assignments early, and the hardest thing about online is that you don't have to be at a particular place at a particular time, right? And so all of a sudden it's Saturday and everything's due on Sunday, right? And you're like, where did the week go? And so part of that is carving out a really strict schedule for yourself, and even within that schedule, then carving out time for self-care, right? So that doesn't become this extra thing that drops off, right? It's like, no, at 10 o'clock, right, I go on a walk, or I meditate, or I pray, right? Extras, whatever it is. So I think carving that out and making yourself a schedule and really holding yourself accountable to it it's going to be good for your grade, but it's going to be even better for having real mental clarity and really not just surviving but flourishing this semester. And eating healthy, all that other good stuff. I think music is going to be a huge part for me. So I'm creating a kind of playlist that keeps me feeling upbeat even when the news and everything else is feeling really overwhelming. And so we can also get in that scrolling through the news or through, if we do social media feeds, that can be overwhelming for us. So I think sometimes we need to escape to a music playlist or whatever it is. So I might share my music playlist with you if you have music that's helping you kind of get out of a funk or just get out of this bad loop of bad news. Please share that with me. I'd love to hear it. Film, music, like I just said, and games as well. These are not things that are just kind of off to the side again, like our self-care in general. I think if you're a gamer, do your gaming, right? And carve out time for that, right? As this is my time to escape. It's also time to look out for philosophical connections. There's so many games that have really good philosophical connections. I've created a discussion board for my gamers, for my cinephiles, the people who like films. I've created a discussion board for that, so hopefully you'll share ideas. And then that's also a place that you can look for a final project idea. So hopefully that will be helpful to you in that way, in addition to kind of self-care way. If you're a horror fan, send me your horror film ideas. I want to hear them. Okay, so other kind of responses to the wisdom question I thought was really great. and some definite common themes, but it was parents, it was grandparents, it was friends, it was looking inside ourselves, it was nature. You guys had all different kinds of answers. The Bible, God, Jesus. It was just, you had a full kind of breadth of answers to where do you turn for wisdom, which I thought was amazing. And it just gave me a lot of hope and strength. It was like, yes, we have this abundance of wisdom already within our communities, and I think that's amazing. A lot of you talked about not just intelligence, and so I think there's an interesting distinction between, do you have to be intelligent to be wise? I actually don't think so. I think they can go together. But a lot of you talked about people or places, right, or things that helped give you a clearer mind. Somebody said something like that. I have a clearer mind after talking to this person. That they listened, that they were accepting of different viewpoints, that they pushed us, right, to think differently or asked more of ourselves. So I think all of those really do align with that sort of Socratic idea of wisdom, right? This lover of wisdom, this lover of kind of the lifelong search, right? That for Socrates, the wisest person is the one who says, I know what I don't know, right? And I'm willing also to revise what I think I know, right? When I come in a conversation with new people and new ideas. And so I hope that's what you are getting from this class as well. Another thing in the question, and I always ask this question of students where they feel most at home, and the thing I noticed this semester more than any other semester was this theme of safety. I never really noticed that before in students' feedback, that people really talked about being surrounded by their family or friends, but that they talked about feeling safe, that home was where they felt safe, right? And so just acknowledging that we actually are in a time and a place right now where we don't necessarily feel safe, right, for all kinds of reasons. And so hopefully you'll find some bit of home or some bit of safety here, enough so that you can test out new ideas, right, within this classroom. People were excited and nervous by far, right? Other people were like, oh, I'm excited about all of it, and that's awesome. A lot of people were like, I'm excited and nervous to talk about politics. Why wouldn't you be, right? Given everything that's going on right now. So absolutely, right? But we have to think about, right, what is our duty, right, to talk about this in a respectful way. And so I think that's a lot of what people fear, is that they see every time people talk about politics, it's in a disrespectful or a chaotic way, right? So I think if we can commit to the tools of philosophy, really being in conversation with one another and seeking clarity rather than just, right, sophistry, which is just winning at all costs, then I think we can discuss politics in a respectful way and in a productive way. I just want to make very clear, everybody in this class who is respectful is welcome. Okay? Disagreement is welcome. Passion is welcome. Growth is welcome and encouraged. Right? So Democrat, Republican, undecided, don't care, right? All welcome, right? Those with documentation and without documentation are welcome in this class, to be very clear. So as long as you're being respectful and you're actually seeking clarity, right, with other people as you disagree, then that is welcome and encouraged. So a lot of other people bring up racial equality, Black Lives Matter, since that was, right, that was the pulse of this summer, right? That's what's happening. We're living within a very historic moment and shifts, right, within our country. So let's use the philosophical tools we have and the thinkers and traditions that we're already a part of and that we're going to learn about to process and respond to this moment, okay, in a way that hopefully feels authentic, right, and that kind of meets our growing edge. All right. Finally, let's see, we've got, the pandemic is on everyone's mind. So many people said that's where I had a huge change, right? Like that was a big experience for a lot of us, right? It shifted our priorities, right? And a lot of us weren't sure whether or how serious to take it, right? And now we're in month 7 or so, right, of this, and our world has been turned upside down, right? The other thing, I mean, I think time management was just on everybody's list. So I've already said that. I'll just say it again, trying to carve out and say, like, no, I go and I do my philosophy homework at this time, a couple times a week, right? And I do my econ at this time, and just writing that down, even daily. I will shout out to the person who said bullet journaling, absolutely. And then checking those things off. I've given you an assignment checklist that you can find that's also with the syllabus under the sort of getting started piece, because I love checking things off a list. So if you can kind of set that up, and it'll just give you all of those little small victories, right, every day and then every week, and it just builds, right? And if you find yourself having a down week, right, don't get caught up in that cycle, right, of saying, oh, I missed this, I'm already behind, right? Because that's how you get further and further behind, right? Just jump back in, right, with enthusiasm, and keep going, and contact me if you need help or assistance or feedback, anything. Okay. I will be unrolling the rest of the weeks pretty soon, so that hopefully you can start getting ahead if you're one of the people who wants to get as far ahead in the class as possible. I hope you look at everything else under the announcements, and I'm going to try to keep it around 20 minutes or less each time, but there's a lot to say this time around. So again, if this is helpful to you, or if there's other things you want feedback on, right, let me know. I can make videos on them, or I can do one-on-one or virtual office hours, which are on Wednesdays and Fridays. All right, talk to you guys soon. Bye.